Hello everyone, welcome to Diplomatic Briefing. This year, 70-year-old world-renowned mathematician Zhang Yitang returned to China. He is highly acclaimed in the field of prime number research. He proved the existence of infinitely many pairs of twin primes with gaps less than 70 million, making the first substantial progress in the history of mathematics towards solving the famous number theory problem, the twin prime conjecture. He also made significant advances on the Landau-Siegel zero conjecture, which is related to the Riemann hypothesis. But what he didn't expect was that after returning to China, what first went viral about him was actually his resume. As everyone knows, after Dr. Zhang Yitang graduated with his PhD and became unemployed, he managed to survive by working odd jobs at fast food restaurants in the United States for 7 years before his academic career was able to restart. This experience was written by Zhang Yitang himself in his official CV as a doctoral supervisor at the University of Chinese Academy of Sciences. Some netizens joke that there really are no smooth roads in life. Even a math genius can't avoid having to do odd jobs. Zhang Yitang just smiled and said that he really doesn't care much about money or fame. As long as he can get by, that's enough for him. After being away from China's academic circles for more than 40 years this June, Zhang Yitang returned from California, USA, and did so decisively, also because life in the United States today isn't so easy anymore. In a recent exclusive interview with Phoenix TV, Zhang Yitang admitted that given the tense international political climate between China and the United States, he has been considering returning to China to develop his career for several years, especially in the past 2 years. He said that many Chinese scholars and professors in the United States have already returned, and many others are considering it here as well. He believes this is a positive trend. He added, "My field of research is not so heavily affected, but if you work in computers, chips, or areas related to the military industry, you need to be especially cautious." The United States is now imposing very strict controls in these areas. As a result, this tenured professor from the Department of Mathematics at the University of California, Santa Barbara, decided to return to China with his whole family, joining Sun Yat-sen University full-time and settling in the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area, becoming a highly influential figure in the wave of overseas Chinese scholars returning home. When news first broke that Zhang Yitang was returning to China, many universities in the country eagerly extended offers to him. Zhang Yitang also recalled that some universities had already reached a preliminary agreement with him. However, Sun Yat-sen University fought hard and managed to secure him at the last moment. He told the host with some emotion, "I said I would think about it a bit more." During spring break this March, Sun Yat-sen University approached me again. This time they were very meticulous. They waited until I boarded the plane and left the United States before announcing my appointment. When the plane landed in Guangzhou, Zhang Yitang could hardly contain his excitement. He said that a customs officer specially boarded the plane to receive them. "I was truly moved. It felt like the country held me in such high regard and valued me so much. All I can do is continue my research." Since returning to the White House this year, US President Trump has drastically cut research funding and tightened visa controls for Chinese students. Coupled with the lingering effects of the notorious China Initiative launched during his first term, these factors have deterred more and more top Chinese talent from coming to the United States to study and conduct research. Zhang Yitang said that at his age, it seems like he is already in the twilight of his life, like a falling leaf that should drift down with the wind. But he is quite stubborn. He said, "I don't want to be like a leaf that simply falls to the ground and that's it. I'm not willing to accept that. I feel that I still have vitality left in me." After returning to China, Zhang Yitang felt something very strange. He said it was as if he had lived another life, as if he had come back to life again. The host pressed him further about what he meant by that, and he replied, "After 40 years, I have returned to the starting point, coming back to work in my home country and serve the nation." Just as his classmate from the Peking University Mathematics Department, Shen Jie, said, Zhang Yitang is someone whose luck hasn't always been the best. In 1991, after receiving his PhD from Purdue University in the United States, Zhang Yitang had difficulty finding an academic position in the US due to a lack of recommendation letters, so he worked as an accountant at a fast food restaurant for 7 years. This was also influenced by geopolitics, as it happened to coincide with the collapse of the Soviet Union. Zhang Yitang said that Americans were very shrewd at the time, recruiting many well-known Soviet mathematicians and physicists to come to the United States. During those years, it was nearly impossible for PhD graduates to find jobs in the United States. But Zhang Yitang did not give up. He persevered for 7 years before finally becoming a lecturer at the University of New Hampshire in the US. After that, he remained unknown for many more years until 2013, when a groundbreaking achievement shocked the academic world. By publishing the paper Bounded Gaps Between Primes, he made the first substantial progress in solving the mathematical problem of the twin prime conjecture. Zhang Yitang's name finally resonated around the world. He described how, at that time, a special conference was held in the western United States to discuss this problem, inviting experts from all over the world. I myself did not attend, but in the end their conclusion was that this problem was impossible to solve. Zhang Yitang recalled, "When I understood why they couldn't solve it, I realized that this might be my strength. In the end, I managed to solve it." At that time, he was already 58 years old, approaching 60, but he still felt that age was not really an obstacle. Scientific research is becoming increasingly difficult, and the time and cycles required are also getting longer and longer. He said he wasn't worried about the issue of age, whether you're 30, 40, just keep going and keep working on it. Moreover, in Zhang Yitang's view, mathematical research can be done anywhere, especially in theoretical mathematics. Just like working as an accountant in a fast food restaurant didn't affect his mathematical thinking. Thinking about the United States, he felt fortunate again. He said that the Trump administration recently did something. They cut a lot of research funding for laboratories, making those working in biological research complain bitterly. If you work in experimental science or experimental physics, without a laboratory and equipment, nothing is possible. Sun Yat-sen University has appointed Zhang Yitang as chief scientist of its Hong Kong Institute for Advanced Study. This institute was inaugurated at Hong Kong Science Park on October 14, 2024. It is the first comprehensive research institution established in Hong Kong by a mainland university, integrating teaching, research, and technology transfer. It focuses on 3 areas: biomedical sciences, applied mathematics, and interdisciplinary humanities and social sciences. To briefly summarize, first, for some researchers, science knows no borders, but scientists have a homeland. Therefore, after studying abroad and achieving success, they choose to return to their home country to contribute to scientific research. Another group of researchers is more drawn to the research environment in the West, especially in the United States, believing that putting down roots in America is more suitable for them. This is a very personal choice. Second, the reality is that American politicians are engaging in anti-China actions. For those Chinese scientists who originally wanted to stay in the United States to conduct research, not only do they face discrimination, but if they're not careful, they could even end up in jail. With Trump's return to power, the restart of the China initiative targeting China-related research has already been put on the agenda, and the wave of Chinese scientists fleeing has continued for several years. Third, under Trump's administration, it was determined that most people in academic institutions were Democratic supporters, so research funding was drastically cut, making the research environment increasingly worse. In contrast, China is heavily investing in scientific research. Chinese listed companies and large enterprises show a very high proportion of profits invested in R&D. Take Huawei. Last year, it invested over 100 billion yuan in R&D, accounting for more than 20% of its total revenue. If this is true for enterprises, it's even more so for research institutions. Research projects at various universities and institutes are highly attractive to scientists from around the world. In conclusion, we very much welcome the large number of Chinese scientists choosing to return to the country, with quite a few settling in Hong Kong as well. However, at the same time, there is no need to place an excessive moral halo on these returning scientists. In fact, the conclusion is quite simple. They originally went to the United States to study because America was strong, and now they are returning because China has become even stronger. Meanwhile, Philippine President Marcos Jr. continues to try to gain U.S. support by confronting China, and provocations in the South China Sea have become more frequent again. In addition to using armed forces to safeguard its sovereignty, China has also recently been preparing to wage an international legal battle. On the 21st, Xinhua news agency's national high-level think tank released a bilingual Chinese-English report as part of the Global South China Sea Truth series, systematically explaining the historical and legal basis for China's territorial sovereignty over the South China Sea islands and its maritime rights and interests. The series of reports includes 3 parts. The Heart of the Blue Waves Belongs to China, which outlines China's historical and legal basis for South China Sea sovereignty and rights. Incitement, Threats, and Lies, which exposes external interference in the South China Sea, and China's practice of making the South China Sea a sea of peace, friendship, and cooperation. This year marks the 80th anniversary of China's victory in the war of resistance against Japanese aggression. The report points out that 80 years ago, as part of the post-World War II international order, China, in accordance with international legal documents like the Cairo and Potsdam Declarations, which laid the foundation for the post-war international order, resumed sovereignty over the South China Sea islands. China's sovereignty and related rights in the South China Sea have been widely recognized by the international community. The report believes that extraterritorial powers have launched a major power competition against China in the so-called Indo-Pacific region, using the South China Sea issue as a tool to contain China. This is the fundamental reason for inciting countries like the Philippines and other claimant states to provoke China, and for fueling the continued escalation of tensions in the South China Sea. The actions of extraterritorial powers to smear and contain China reflect the modern Western strategic mindset centered on the pursuit and maintenance of hegemony, serving as a projection of their own inner ambitions. The report urges recognizing the tricks used by the US and West to sow discord, threaten, and drive wedges over the South China Sea issue when the world faces turbulent challenges. It calls for maintaining regional peace and stability, achieving development and prosperity for all countries, and making the South China Sea a sea of peace, friendship, and cooperation. Xinhua News Agency's national high-end think tank focuses on public policy and international policy research. In recent years, it has conducted forward-looking, strategic, and reserve studies on major domestic and international issues, producing numerous think tank research outcomes with broad influence. With the release of this report, it is believed that they are preparing to have ample evidence to refute the Philippines in case it challenges on the international legal front.